Most of us believe that we have certain basic human rights. The right to liberty, equality before the law, freedom of religion, freedom of opinion, and freedom of speech. It is obvious that these rights are not always respected, and sometimes we might believe that rights need to be limited in some circumstances. For example, the right to liberty is suspended for those in prison. Christians believe that because we are made in the image of God, we should love and value the individual, but that doesn't necessarily always mean tolerating what they do. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights sets out in 39 articles the rights and privileges that every human being deserves to have protected. Article 1 states, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights." The declaration was drawn up in the years following World War II and was intended to prevent events like the Holocaust ever occurring again. It was written by representatives from the USA, the UK, the USSR, France, Chile, Australia, Lebanon, China, and Canada, and it was formally accepted by the UN General Assembly in December 1948. All 192 members of the UN have agreed to uphold the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and many countries now have their own human rights legislation which is based on the Declaration. However, agreeing to uphold it and actually upholding it are not the same thing. Reports by groups like Amnesty and UNICEF suggest that torture occurs in over 80 countries. Freedom of expression is limited in at least 70. Slavery and forced labor is common and includes child slaves. There are many sex slaves, including an estimated 60,000 child prostitutes in the Philippines. Furthermore, the declaration itself is not legally binding, and it can be very difficult to bring about change if countries do not abide by the articles. In the Old Testament, many of the prophets spoke about the importance of social justice. The prophet Isaiah said that people should help those who are vulnerable. Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. Christians would support the principle of human rights because they believe that God created all people equal and therefore all deserve the same treatment. In the letter to the church at Galatia, Paul said, "There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free. There is no male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." This means that all people are equal and there should be no differences between them. Jesus taught his followers to show agape, meaning brotherly love or compassion, for others, and set the example of treating those in need with kindness, even if they were the outcasts in society. For example, he healed people with leprosy and healed the Samaritan woman's daughter when most people would have avoided any contact with lepers or with Samaritans. Many Christians have been involved in the fight for human rights, and most Christians would say that it is important to put their beliefs into practice. Many people who agree with the general principle of human rights might still accept that under certain circumstances it might be acceptable to limit or temporarily remove certain rights. For example, in Britain, the 2006 Terrorism Act allows police to detain terrorist suspects for up to 28 days without trial. The rationale behind this was that evidence for terrorist activity is often difficult to gather because it is often in encrypted computer files. Police need 28 days to build a case. And terrorist acts, however unlikely, present a great risk to a large number of people if they do happen. It is an extreme example, but some people believe that torture and advanced interrogation methods, like sleep deprivation or waterboarding, might be justifiable if used to obtain knowledge of something like terrorist plans. Harming one person to save others could fulfill the utilitarian principle that something is morally acceptable if it brings about the greatest good for the greatest number. In some cases, religious freedom can clash with other human rights. For example, it is generally illegal to discriminate based on gender, but a woman cannot become a Catholic priest. Similar issues arise with LGBTQ rights, where some Christians want to still be able to call certain things a sin, which the law otherwise accepts. Freedom of expression does not include hate speech, but is it hate speech to say that gay people should not be allowed to marry? These are tricky issues where rights seem to clash. Many organizations and people are known for their work in promoting human rights. For example, Amnesty International, which was set up over 50 years ago to try and promote and safeguard human rights. They are a multinational pressure group and have over 3 million supporters. Amnesty publishes its own reports about human rights abuses and works hard to raise public awareness of cases in which human rights are not protected. In addition to publishing reports, it makes use of the following methods to put pressure on regimes to change. It organizes mass public demonstrations and rallies to cause disruption and raise awareness. It initiates boycotts which put economic pressure on corporations or regimes. It encourages letter-writing campaigns to flood MPs and regime leaders with letters which show the strength of public opinion, and it provides legal aid for victims of human rights abuses. There are many individuals who have worked in some way to campaign for human rights. For example, Martin Luther King, who campaigned for racial equality and the end of segregation in America. He was a Baptist Christian minister who used non-violent process such as boycotts, rallies, and speeches.